Hello friends, and thank you as always for visiting the Legend Sports Universe YouTube channel, Legend Sports Universe, where legends play forever. This is the top 10 game countdown of the Franchise Stars Baseball League playoffs for year one of the FSBL. We had an outstanding postseason, every game broadcast here on the channel. We had pitchers duels, we had slugfests, and we had everything in between, high drama. So in the interim here, before we get year two going on the channel, it should be in the next 2 to 3 weeks, hopefully, as I get the new prospects entered into the league. Figured we would get things, recap these great games from this recently completed postseason. Again, you can watch every game here on the channel if you missed it, if you are new to things here at the Legend Sports Universe. As always, I appreciate you tuning in. So we're going to waste no time. We're going to get down. So let's start with Game 10 in the countdown. Game 1 takes us to Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, the American League wild card game. The Yankees sending 20-game winner Ron Guidry out to the mound to pitch their way into the American League Division Series. They would battle the California Angels. The Angels went 20-8 over the final month of the season, including an 8-game streak in September, to rally to claim the final wild card spot in the American League. That got them this date with the 99-win Yankees and Guidry, and things started off with a bang. Guidry's task, don't make mistakes. He knows he's got the better lineup. And there's a mistake. Chad Curtis deep drive to left field. See you later, the Angels. Strike first right off the bat. 405 feet off the bat. Chad Curtis, a deep home run to left. The leadoff man of the game, and the Angels jump out to a quick 1-0 lead here in New York. Hits would keep on coming. Runner on second in the first inning. Mark Trumbo ropes a base hit in the right field to bring another run home. The Angels jumped out to a quick 2-0 lead in the first, ambushing the Yankees in the Bronx. So 2 runs on the board. The Angels would rely on Andy Messersmith's 16-game winner to keep that lead intact against the potent Yankees lineup. Messersmith 16-9, 3.09, taking the hill in what can be an intimidating Bronx setting. While Messersmith did his job the first time through the Yankee order, he got some more help here in the fourth. Game still 2-0. Brian Downing leads off the fourth against Guidry with a double down the right field line. Close play at second, but the slugging left fielder gets in there safely to open things up. Couple batters later, catcher Mike Napoli steps up to the plate. Runners at the corner, still nobody out, and Napoli comes through with a base hit in the left to bring home Downing and extend the Angels' lead to 3-0. 2 batters later, still first and second, 3-0. Guidry behind 2-1. Randy Velarde goes down the right field line. It hits off the sidewall, but a run will come around to score, and the Angels extend the lead to 4-0 in the fourth. Next batter up, order rolls over. Chad Curtis started the game with a home run. Here he'll settle for a single into left to bring home another run. 5-0 Angels in the fourth. That would be it for Guidry, and the Cardinals' cruise control was on the way. 2 outs in the 8th. Yankees have a runner on. Messersmith has allowed only 1 run through those 7 2/3. Aaron Judge steps up, launches one into the night, and that was about the only thing the Yankees would have to cheer about in this one. Messersmith was solid. He'd leave at that point with a 10-3 lead. It was the only damage the Yankees would really do. Angels would get the 2 runs from the Judge homer right back. Here in the 9th, first and third, 1 out. Billy Johnson ground ball to second, 4-6-3 double play to end it, and the California Angels kept their season alive with a wild card game stunner. over the Yankees 12-3 in the Bronx. Game number 9 on the countdown takes us to St. Louis and Busch Stadium. Game 5, the National League Division Series, the Montreal Expos, the surprise of the season, forcing the Game 5 in St. Louis. Steven Strasburg would take the mound for the Expos, having won Game 2 in St. Louis. At the start of the series, Max Lanier would get the start, with the Cardinals scuffling a bit on who to pick after Ted Breitenstein got blitzed in that game too. So it was up to Lanier. Here we are in the third. Shot down to first and second. Nice pick by Johnny Mize. Ozzie Smith, though, on the return, airmails the throw, and Montreal would get a run on the uncharacteristic Ozzie Smith error to take the 1-0 lead. Wilson Ramos, with a man on second, would then single into right field. Run would come home there. J.D. Drew's throw nowhere's near being on line. And the Expos had themselves a 2-0 lead, and the crowd in St. Louis incredibly nervous. It had been a tough slog in the series to that point for Johnny Mize, but Mize absolutely obliterates this Steven Strasburg pitch deep into the night and right to get the Cardinals on the board and give them a little bit of a sense of momentum. After Montreal claimed the 2-0 lead, Mize's first home run of the postseason. He was batting .125 in the series to that point. Mize 46 homers during the regular season, none as big as this one. 2 innings later in the fourth, the Cardinals load the bases, nobody out. Ken Boyer smacks one down to first. Nick Johnson knocks it down on the dive. They get Boyer out at first, but the Cardinals get a run home to tie up the score at 2. That would then lead to Yadier Molina. Ground ball to short, 6-4-3 double play. Strasburg, facing the jam, gets out of it with as little damage as could reasonably be expected. We finish the fourth, tied at 2 in St. Louis. The Expos would find themselves in a similar situation, this time at the plate. First and second, nobody out. In the fifth, shot to left, a diving stop by Ray Lankford. Wilson Ramos inexplicably tries to tag from second base. The slow-footed Ramos gunned down on a huge double play that it certainly seemed at the time could change the momentum of the game. An inning later, though, in the sixth, the Expos would threaten again. Still 2-2, man on first, 2 outs. Moises Alou rips a shot down the left field line. Going into the corner for it, Ray Lankford, his relay throw to Ozzie Smith. The runner is sent home over-aggressively, trying to make up for the run that didn't happen after the Ramos base running error, and instead they compound it. Zimmerman gunned down at the plate, and the score stayed tied 2-2 as we head to the bottom of the sixth. Yadier Molina hit into that inning-ending, rally-ending double play his prior time up. Not this time. First and third, bottom of the sixth, Molina singles into right, a 2-out base hit to give the Cardinals a 3-2 lead and bring the fans at Busch Stadium to their feet, knowing the NLCS was 3 innings away. First and second, bottom of the eighth, Cardinals looking for an insurance run. Ripper Collins, who was terrific during the season and the postseason, comes through here with an RBI single up the middle to make it a 4-2 lead. Close play at the plate. Jim Edmonds slides in just past the tag of Wilson Ramos, and the Cardinals had the insurance run they desperately needed. Here you see the throw from Andre Dawson on line, the tag just late. Beautiful slide there by Edmonds, and in the ninth, Chuck Taylor, 2 down. Wilson Ramos, who made that huge running gaffe earlier, grounds out to second. Hornsby throws him out, and the Cardinals lock up the berth in the NLCS with the Game 5 win, bringing to a close a terrific, surprising season by the Montreal Expos. But the Cardinals got where they were expected to be from the start and got to celebrate at home with the big 4-2 win. We saw how that series ended, but for Game 8 on our top 10 games of the postseason countdown, we go to where that series began. Still St. Louis, still Busch Stadium. This time, Max Scherzer, Bob Gibson, Game 1 of the NLDS. Pitching wins in the postseason. That's the old adage, and you weren't going to get much better than this. The question, of course, Bob Gibson, you'll see, 13-10, 4.24. He had about a 7-start stretch in July and August that was absolutely horrendous. He righted the ship a bit down the stretch, and there was nobody else who was going to be called on for Game 1. But there, Bryce Harper, MVP candidate, with 2 outs in the first inning, crushes one into the gap in right for the big 2-out double. Would Gibson be able to right the ship and pitch to the form expected of Hoot on the hill? Next batter, Andre Dawson. He and Harper both topped the 40 home run plateau during the season, but Dawson grounded out to Hornsby to end the inning and escape the threat. Gibson had survived the first. On the hill for the Expos, Max Scherzer, 12-10, 3.23. Scherzer, about the only guy in baseball who can match the competitive nature of Bob Gibson. This was expected to be a thriller and did not disappoint. Rogers Hornsby, 3-0 count, 2 outs in the first. Swings, chases one a bit out of the zone, hits it well to left center, but not well enough. Dawson tracks it down. Both pitchers get through the first unscathed. And there would be a lot more where that came from. Ryan Zimmerman, bottom of the second, 2 outs, facing Gibson. Slider gets Zimmerman the chase. Down he goes. Gibson on cruise control. Ted Breitenstein had the best ERA on the Cardinals staff during the season, and he said before the series, make no mistake about it, Gibby is our ace. 2 down. Bottom of the third, J.D. Drew facing Max Scherzer. Scherzer at the knees on the outside corner. Drew doesn't like it. The ump doesn't care. Scherzer gets out of his first touch of trouble, and that would keep things rolling. Harper again facing Gibson. Now in the fourth, stroke that double his first time up. Gibson gets him with the cheddar there, strikes him out in the fourth. Third strikeout there at that point for Gibson. Andre Dawson up next, swing and a miss, ties him up too. Hawk sent back to the dugout in frustration for the second straight time. Rusty Staub, Gibson again ahead, 0-2, an absolute yacker. Staub frozen, Gibson marches back to the dugout in total command. This would be a matter of who blinked first, and Scherzer was the one to blink. Ray Lankford in the bottom of the fifth, leading it off, first pitch into the seats in right, and Gibson would have a 1-0 lead. And it certainly looked as though he wouldn't need anything more than that. Ray Lankford, him and Jim Edmonds, both exceptional, somewhat surprising seasons. Out of them during the regular season, Lankford brings it into the postseason to continue the act. First and second, 2 outs in the seventh. Gibson facing Ryan Zimmerman. 1-2 count, tying run on second. High cheddar, Zimmerman is blown away. And the normally stoic Bob Gibson comes off the mound. Gibson fired up. The Cardinals riding their big dog in game 1. In the meantime, bottom of the seventh, man on, 2 outs. Ken Boyer grounds out to Adam LaRoche. That would be the end for Max Scherzer. Scherzer goes 7, allows 1 run on 3 hits. He is terrific. But Gibson had allowed only 1 hit since the Harper double in the first. Spike Owen in the 9th. Fly ball out to right. J.D. Drew squeezes it for out number 1. That would bring up Harper. 2-2 count as Gibson works to the MVP candidate. Shot out to right. J.D. Drew once again. Harper got a good piece, just missed it. Drew puts it into the glove for 2 away. Andre Dawson, who Gibson had chewed up and spit out through this game. Full count, 2 down. Dawson, fly ball, looping to right. Drew a long run, gets there for the grab. And Bob Gibson with a complete game 2-hit shutout leads the Cardinals past the Expos in Game 1, Gibson putting his midseason troubles behind him in an absolute class performance, the kind you would expect from the great Bob Gibson. Scherzer was exceptional. Gibson still was better. At number 7 in the top 10 countdown, the first entry from our 7-game Classic World Series between the Oakland A's and the San Francisco Giants. This one, Game 6. After the A's had taken a 3-1 series lead, the Giants came back with a raucous win in Game 5, but Oakland still had command of things as the series went to Game 6. At that point, the A's would turn to Lefty Grove. Grove gave up some hard contact in the Game 2 5-1 Oakland win, but at the end of the day, he went the distance, allowing only a run. Joe McGinnity would come back on 3 days rest to get the start for the Giants and try to keep their season alive, and he would get some help in the second. Buster Posey, 1-out drive deep to center field. Posey, a scalding hot postseason, and was his 3rd home run of the playoffs, and it gave the Giants a 1-0 lead as they looked to extend momentum after the Game 5 victory. In the first 2 games of the series, in which the A's outscored the Giants 19-2, it appeared as though the A's were making no mistakes. That would change here. In the third, 1st and 3rd, ground ball from Robbie Thompson down to Frank Baker, which should have been a perfect double play ball, pulls Semien off the base. Instead, they got no one, and the run scored to make it 2-0. Later on, Buster Posey once again drives one into the gap. It's a double for Posey, leading off the 4th, and the Giants seem to have everything going their way. Posey would move up to 3rd, 1 out in the inning. Bobby Thompson battling Grove, fouled off a couple of pitches to stay alive, lines this shot into right. Reggie Jackson tracks it down, but Posey comes home to score, and the Giants take a 3-0 lead. While all that was going on, Joe McGinnity was throwing a gem. Keeping the ball down, here's Frank Baker in the 5th, ground ball down to McCovey, who takes it himself. There was loads of weak contact like that throughout this one for the A's. Giants in control through 5 with the 3-0 lead. In the 6th, bases loaded for the Giants as they look to put this one away with 2 outs. Freddie Lindstrom takes ball 4 inside. Lefty Grove had come out of the game. Jack Combs comes in, throws some kerosene on the fire, and it's a 4-0 game. In the 7th, McGinnity still dealing. Weak ground ball the 3rd from McGuire. Lindstrom throws him out for the 2nd out there in the 7th. You can see the frustration on McGuire's face. Tension starting to mount for the A's. There's a shot into left, though. They got runners on in the 8th. Run comes home. RBI single from Marcus Semien, who had had a brutal postseason to that point. Gets Oakland on the board for the first run. Makes it a 4-1 ball game. The A's had been ultra aggressive at the plate all day, started taking occasional pitches and reaping the benefits. Wally Shang here, ground ball through the right side, brings another run home, and the A's cut the deficit to 4-2 as Campaneris scores. So the bottom of the A's order coming through, getting them back into this game. Joe McGinnity, again, McGinnity was working on 3 days rest. You wonder if the A's could have possibly gotten him knocked out of this game a little bit earlier had they been a bit more patient. But McGinnity was averaging just over 9 pitches an inning until he was removed at this point in the 8th. A terrific job from the Iron Man. In would come Marv Grissom. 1st and 2nd, still nobody out. Ricky Henderson, fly ball to right. Melott puts it away. The runner tags, strong throw in, but the runner moves up. So now a runner on third to get things possibly within a run. But Tilly Walker chases one out of the zone for strike three. First strikeout for Grissom as he sets aside Tilly Walker for the second out. Beautiful screwball there from Grissom. Look at the movement on this baby. So now the A's, with the tying runs on base and 2 down in the 8th, would get their best player to the plate. Jimmy Fox. Everyone in Oakland would have loved to see Jimmy Fox go yard as he did 42 times during the regular season. But he grounds this one out to Thompson, who flips it to short for the force, and the Giants would keep the 4-2 lead. In the 9th, Jack Coombs gets the big double play there to keep San Francisco from adding anything to it, and that would bring in the closer, Al Holland. Holland had been terrible against the Mets. Both games he appeared for against the Mets in the division series, Holland was touched up for runs. He did close out the Game 3 win. But first pitch here, Mark McGwire goes deep over the glove of a leaping Bobby Thompson. McGuire's 5th home run of the postseason. The crowd in Oakland frenzied once again, and now the A's were within a run of completing the comeback from a game that looked out of their reach not long ago. Frank Baker, the next batter. Al Holland walks him on 4 pitches. Chatter in the press box at Oakland that Holland looked terrified. Up next, Reggie Jackson. Jackson, 2 huge home runs in the ALCS against the Indians. But Holland, after falling behind 2-0, comes back and locks Jackson up with a fabulous slider at the knees. Reggie doesn't like it, but that was the pitch of the season for Al Holland. 1 down, Bert Campaneris, still a runner on first. Ground ball up the middle, that's a base hit. Runner holds at second, but now the tying run in scoring position, the winning run on first. Campaneris, who had started the postseason on the bench, started playing after Danny Murphy's bat and glove. Both went in the tank. Marcus Semien moved to second. Campaneris played short from that point on, and Campaneris brought a decent bat with him. Speaking of Semien, ground ball up the middle, Alvin Dark. Exceptional all postseason for the Giants, makes the play, saving not only a run, but the game. Stepping on second, throwing the first for the double play. McGinnity gets the win. The Giants get the win. And baseball fans get the best words in sports. Game 7. We reached the midpoint of this top 10 countdown with the number 6 game on our list. For that one, we go to the American League Division Series, the Cleveland Indians and the Boston Red Sox. Game 3, the series tied at a game apiece as it headed back to Cleveland after a split in Fenway. Early Win would get the start for the Indians. We'll see Early Win again a little bit later in this broadcast. Win here, tasked with trying to get the Indians a leg up in a series in which they were heavy underdogs. Win would do battle with 20-game winner John Lester. Lester was exceptional for the Red Sox this season as their number 3 starter behind Pedro Martinez and Cy Young. Momentum on the minds of both teams here in a pivotal Game 3. Bobby Doerr, top of the second, takes the momentum for Boston in the early going. Takes Early Win deep over the wall and left. Doerr's first home run of the postseason, getting things going, and the Red Sox would claim an early 1-0 lead. If you're a Red Sox fan who liked seeing this one, you'll love what happens next. This isn't an instant replay. This is 2 innings later. Another pitch from Win, another shot from Bobby Doerr. This time with second and third. This home run of the 3-run variety on a 1-2 pitch from Early Win, and the Red Sox would take what seemed to be a commanding 4-0 lead in the fourth. The fans in Cleveland not liking how the first playoff game at Cleveland Stadium was going. But there was still plenty of game left for a Cleveland Indians lineup that got more potent as the year went on after early struggles. First and third, though, in the fourth, ground ball to third, should have ended the inning, but Jimmy Collins' throw pulls Joe Harris off the bag. Run comes around to score, and the Indians were on the board. They had cut the deficit to 4-1. Collins with the pick, plenty of time to get the slow-footed Martinez, but the errant throw pulls Harris off the bag. It would be 4-1. That's how things would stay until the bottom of the eighth. Jonathan Papelbon on, facing Manny Ramirez. Deep drive to left, a leaping Ted Williams can't come up with it. It's an RBI double for Manny Ramirez, and the Indians have cut the deficit to 4-2 with 2 down in the bottom of the eighth inning. Manny Ramirez, who we will see again during this broadcast, with a big double there to keep Cleveland's hopes alive as they try to claw their way back in against the Sox. In would come Koji Uehara to pitch the ninth. Uehara picked up the save in the Game 2 victory. Now it was time for him to face the Indians here in the ninth. Jose Ramirez would lead things off. He was 0 for 2. He'd walked and stolen a bag earlier on in the game. Uehara would get ahead of him 0-2. But Ramirez would come through here with a line shot into left center. Be cut off, but Ramirez would get into second with a leadoff double. So now Cleveland had a runner on second that could get them within a run. But after the next batter was retired, Andres Jimenez would do better than that. Deep drive to right, not known for power, but Jimenez clears the wall in right field. The crowd in Cleveland explodes in Major League fashion. The drum pounds, the crowd gets to its feet, and the Indians head knotted the game at 4-4 to drive a dagger into the hearts of Red Sox Nation. In would come Jack Wilson. Wilson during the regular season, 4-2, a 3.7 earned run average. He would now be tasked to try to get Boston to the finish line in this one, hoping their offense would come through. They wouldn't get much of a chance. There's a shot. Chapman, deep left, going back on to Ted Williams, at the track, at the wall, it's out of here. Walk-off home run for Ray Chapman. The Indians take Game 3 and take a 2-1 lead here in the American League Division Series. So up by 4, the Red Sox are done in by Andres Jimenez, who had 7 homers during the regular season, and Ray Chapman, who had 4. The Cleveland Indians would take Game 3 and a 2-1 lead in the series as the crowd in Cleveland goes crazy. We move into the second half of this recap with the game I probably had the hardest time deciding where to slot it in to the top 10 games of the postseason. We head out to Oakland, the Cleveland Indians visiting the Oakland A's for Game 2 of the ALCS. The A's had taken Game 1, and Cleveland would turn back to their starter who you saw in that last broadcast, Early Win. As you saw, Win did not fare well in that one. He'd be called on here, though, to lock up with Lefty Grove and try to get the series even for the Indians as they would head back to Cleveland. There were some who thought Win should have been skipped. There were some who thought Mel Harder should have gotten the start. Or they could have done it by committee, but instead, the task fell to Early Win, and Win would get some help early on. In the second, first and second, Dale Mitchell the other way, just inside the bag at third for an RBI single to bring home the run, and the Indians would take a 1-0 lead. The Indians had gotten through Boston in the ALDS with Napoleon Lajoie ice cold. They needed Lajoie to break out to have a chance against the A's, and here he is in the third inning, shot down the right field line. Reggie Jackson flubs it a bit in the corner. Napoleon Lajoie would pull in at third with a one-out triple. That would set the stage for Manny Ramirez. Full count offering from Grove. Ramirez had just fouled one off. This one, he keeps fair. Driven to right over the head of Reggie Jackson, barely missing a home run. Lajoie scores. Ramirez pulls in at second with an RBI double, and the Indians have taken a 2-0 lead. Up next, Jim Thome. Ramirez on second. Thome lashes one into left center field. It's cut off, but Ramirez would come home to score, and the Indians had staked early win to a 3-0 lead. Now, Wynn had been battered by the Red Sox. A 3-0, certainly not any kind of a guarantee. 2 outs here. Frank Baker swinging a red-hot bat, flies out to Dale Mitchell in right. Wynn had kept things scoreless. To the 6th inning we go. 2 down, Marcus Semien swings and misses at the slider. Wynn has not only kept Oakland scoreless, he's kept them hitless. Early Wynn throwing an absolute gem. And now that we were through 6, you started to get a feeling that maybe there was some history coming in the cards. In the 7th, Jimmy Fox leading things off. 0-2 pitch, swings over the fastball. Down goes Fox for one away. Up next, Mark McGwire. 1-2 the count to the American League RBI champ. McGwire back to the mound. Wynn snags it, throws to first. McGwire is set down for out number 2 in the 7th inning. Wynn looking to complete his navigation of the heart of the order. Frank Baker had flown out twice already. Maybe the ground will work better. No, sir. Napoleon Lajoie, a nice backhanded play on a shot up the middle, retires Baker. Early Win through 7 has the A's hitless. Justin Dukeshire in for the A's, facing Jim Thome. Wynn may not have needed the help, but he sure wasn't saying no to it. Jim Thome deep into the seats in right field, his 3rd home run of the postseason, and the Indians would claim a 4-0 lead. The focus at this point solely on early Win. Reggie Jackson leading off the 8th. 1-0 pitch pops straight up the chute. Victor Martinez sheds the mask, puts it away for out number 1. Jackson dropping the bat, snatching it off the ground in frustration. Up next, Danny Murphy. Hadn't started in a while. The A's tried to get him back in the lineup to see if he could do anything. Line shot into right, a nice running grab. Up next, Tilly Walker. 3-1 count to Walker. Wynn certainly not in a position where he wants to groove anything here. There's the pitch. Walker, ground ball down to third. Nice backhand play by Jose Ramirez. Played a great third base all postseason. A whirling throw to first. An early Win carries a no-hitter into the 9th. Leading things off for the A's. 2-1 pitch to the catcher, Wally Shang. Shang lines it to left, a sinking liner. Manny Ramirez lays out for the dive and can't come up with it. A terrific play by Ramirez. Manny with a scatter shot left field play throughout the postseason. But nothing he could do there. The no-hitter was gone, so now Wynn's focus had to turn solely to the victory. Marcus Semien, down he goes for the strikeout. 7th strikeout for Wynn. 2 outs in the 9th. Here's Jimmy Fox. Fox ground ball to short. It's muffed a little bit by Chapman, but he goes to Lajoie for the force. The side is retired, and the Indians even the series behind an exceptional performance from early Wynn, carrying a no-hitter through 8 of Game 2 of the American League Championship Series. A terrific bounce-back start from Wynn, and the Indians sensed that they had something brewing. Look at that, 7 Ks, 1 hit allowed. He did walk a couple, but an exceptional performance from Wynn. I concede, after the backhanded play by Lajoie and then the grabs by Mitchell and Jose Ramirez, I thought he was going to do it. I thought he was going to get there after that. Once defensive help starts being part of something like that, you start to think that the pitcher just kind of has things on his side. There are some who watch this next game that probably would put this game as high as number 1 on this list of the top 10 games. I tried to factor in not just the excitement of the game, but the situation and the magnitude and all that kind of stuff. This one, though, I think probably could have gone anywhere in the top 4 slots. We go to Candlestick Park, Game 1 of the National League Division Series. The New York Mets had survived a gauntlet for the wild card. They had to beat Atlanta on the last day of the regular season, then beat them for a Game 163 after forcing the tie just to get into the playoffs, then beat the Dodgers in the wild card game. That meant they were without Tom Seaver, so they turned to David Cone to get the start for them against Carl Hubbell in Game 1 against the Juggernaut Giants, who had won 109 games during the regular season, second only to the A's, who had won 111. First inning, 2 outs, Willie Mays greets David Cone rudely. Deep shot into the overcast night, an emphatic bat flip from the Say Hey Kid, and the Giants didn't take long to get on the board. It was 1-0 San Francisco. That looked fun, so Mel Ott decided he would do the same. 1-0 pitch to Ott, back-to-back jacks. Ott, a screaming liner into the second deck in right field at Candlestick as the light rain fell, but it was raining heavily on David Cone at this moment. Back-to-back shots give the Giants the 2-0 lead as they get Game 1 off to a rousing start at Candlestick. After what they'd had to do to get here, the Mets certainly weren't going to be scared, though. Certainly not by a 2-0 deficit. Darryl Strawberry in the 4th greets Carl Hubbell. Lefty, who cares? Strawberry sends this one out into right center field over the wall, 404 feet. Strawberry's first jack of the postseason cuts the deficit in half. We had a 2-1 ball game. We would get to the bottom of the 5th, and the 2 home runs in the first were the only hits that Cone had allowed. Until this one, Buster Posey, deep to left field, and Posey would put it out of the park for a solo home run. That would give the Giants a 3-1 lead. 3 hits for the Giants, 3 solo home runs to that point. As long as he kept the ball in the yard, Cone was pitching well. But the Giants had put 3 over the fence, and that had put the Mets back in a 2-run hole. Posey kicking off what would go on to be an exceptional postseason for him. Then we get to the 6th. Willie Mays, again, deep drive to left, once again, big flip from Mays, putting on a show. The Giants still had not gotten any hit other than the home runs. 4 hits, 4 solo jacks equal a 4-1 lead. Cone could not believe what was occurring to him in this one. But Mays just putting on the show that a superstar MVP caliber player puts on. To the 7th we go. Craig Swan now on in relief for the Mets. Willie McCovey, sensing that jet stream out to left field, McCovey figures, sure, I'll go the other way. Home run Willie McCovey. McCovey, the National League home run leader during the regular season, drives one out over the wall and left. Still, the Giants had not had any hits other than home runs. 5 hits, 5 solo homers made for a 5-1 Giants lead. That lead is the only thing the fans at Candlestick cared about. Their team was on top. To the 9th inning we go. Carl Hubbell out of the game. Felix Rodriguez comes in. Rodriguez a 6 ERA over 21 appearances. Questionable decision, but you figure you're up 4 runs with 1 inning left. We can bring in someone a little bit weaker, perhaps get him a little work, try to get him some exposure. He would face Darryl Strawberry to start things off. There you see Strawberry's home run back in the 4th. That was the only Mets run to this point in the game. But Strawberry would start things off here against Felix Rodriguez. First pitch from Felix, and Strawberry would shoot it out into right field in front of Ott for a leadoff single. So the Mets would start the 9th with a little bit of hope, a leadoff base runner in the form of Darryl Strawberry. Howard Johnson, rough season for Hojo. He was injured, he slumped, but he did get hot late, and he carried that into the postseason. Hey, ball looks like it's flying out to left. I can do that. Johnson, dead pull hitter traditionally, but goes the other way there, puts one into the seats and left, and now the Mets had cut the deficit in half. It was now 5-3. They still had nobody out in the 9th, and the Giants, with a sense of nervousness coming over the crowd at Candlestick after the Hojo home run. 3-batter minimum rule in effect. He'd only faced 2, so figuring he hadn't done enough damage yet, Felix Rodriguez hit Jeff McNeil to bring the tying run to the plate. That would be it for Rodriguez, greeted with a chorus of boos by the fans at Candlestick, and that would bring in Al Holland. Holland had saved 46 of 53 chances during the regular season. He'd been very strong. Here he would face Asdrubal Cabrera. Cabrera goes the other way, lines a single into right field. It's 1st and 2nd. McNeil holds up, not testing Ott's throw. There was 1 out, 3-2 pitch to Hundley, and Hundley pulls it in the left field for a base hit. McNeil comes around third. Bobby Thompson's throw way up the first base line. McNeil comes around to score, and now the deficit has been trimmed to 5-4. Still 1 out. 1-2 offering Jose Reyes, 1st and 2nd. Line shot into right. It would short hop in front of Mel Ott. Runner would hold, though. So the bases were loaded, 1 out. The Mets had scraped their way back from 5-1 to 5-4. Lenny Dykstra squares, push bunt, puts it through the right-hand side. Jeff Kent had vacated the area. There was nobody there. 2 runs score as Lenny Dykstra, with a sort of push bunt slap kind of half swing, gets it into right field, and the Mets had stormed all the way back for 5 runs in the top of the 9th against the Giants bullpen, and now the Mets would turn to their closer, Jesse Orosco. Now the Giants were in the shocking position of trying to come from behind and save a disastrous defeat. The Giants still had yet to pick up a hit other than a home run, with the heart of the order coming up. Here's the pitch. Mays, high fly ball, deep right, going back. It's carrying. Strawberry's at the wall. It's out of here. Willie Mays ties it up with his 3rd home run of the game. The Say Hey Kid says save. Gone to Jesse Orosco. We are tied 6-6. Willie Mays, great players do great things at big times. And Mays putting on a show. Remember the 1st inning? This is no instant replay. His 3rd home run of the game. And now Ott wins it with his 2nd. Mel Ott crushes another laser to right. Unbelievable finish. The Giants blow a 5-1 lead in the top of the 9th. Get back-to-back homers from Mays and Ott for the second time in the game. 7 hits on the day, 7 solo homers. Absolutely unbelievable. The San Francisco Giants. Folks, I don't even know how to describe what we've seen in the last inning of this game. Unbelievable. Mel Ott with another absolute laser. This one hit even harder than his first, I believe. Look at this thing get out of here. Mel Ott struggled for the first 6 weeks, I'd say, of the season. Was batted down around 220, virtually no power. That seems a long gone memory at this point. And this is a crushing loss for the Mets. And it would be a crushing loss for the Mets, who would get taken out in 4 games. If they had won that game, now they at least get a shot at a split, and then they get home with their ace, Tom Seaver, on the mound. Seaver, of course, needed a little bit of rest after pitching the wild card game against the Dodgers. But if the Mets come out of there with that win, it is conceivable that they lead that series 2-1 after Seaver's start. That was the lone win that they got. But if they get that win, and obviously you can't assume outcomes, but if Seaver does pitch as he did in Game 3 and they win that one, now the Mets are up 2-1 in a 5-game series. It wasn't a best of 7, it's a best of 5 in the division series. Lots could have gone differently. So that brings us up to number 3 in the countdown of the top 10 games of the FSBL's postseason for year 1. It'll be fitting that this one goes back-to-back with that last game as we head out to another entry from the first FSBL World Series. The A's and Giants locked up in a classic series. This is Game 5 from Candlestick Park. The A's and Giants. A's leading 3-1. The Giants had taken Game 3 7-5, but the A's got the bats in gear again in Game 4 with the win. Now, looking to clinch, they would send their ace, Rube Waddell, to the mound to do battle with the Giants' Tim Keefe. And early on, the A's struck first. Ricky Henderson, with what had been a pretty tame postseason to this point, singles up the middle off Keefe in the third to bring home Marcus Semien and give the A's a 1-0 lead. Keefe got that curveball a bit up in the zone, and Henderson pounced on top of it. Heading to the bottom of the third, Waddell facing Alvin Dark, and Dark goes down and gets one. Curveball down in the zone, and Dark yanks it out. We saw in that Mets-Giants game the jet stream carrying out to left. Looked like it there. That was kind of off the end of the bat of Alvin Dark. By no means a huge power hitter, but he puts it into the seats, and the Giants had knotted the score at 1-1. Waddell had been a tough nut to crack all postseason, as had Keefe, except for Game 2 in this series. Here he gives up with second and third, a ground out to Bert Campaneris, bringing in a run in the fourth. The A's would reclaim the lead up 2-1. 2 down, Marcus Semien at the plate, runner on second. Semien puts a shot out into right, way back, and gone. Marcus Semien, who had swung a ice-cold bat for most of the postseason, picked up his second home run of the playoffs, and that looked like it was going to be a dagger for the Giants. Waddell coming back on full rest. He had been held back. Catfish Hunter had pitched Game 4. So Waddell was able to come back here in Game 5 on full rest, and now he had been staked to a 4-1 lead, and things had looked somber at Candlestick. By this point in the playoffs, Willie Mays' batting average had dipped down below 220. But every hit Mays had seemed to be a big one, and this was no different. First home run in the playoffs off of Rube Waddell, Mays' 8th of the postseason, a 2-run jack. In the 6th, gets the Giants back within a run. It's now a 4-3 ball game, and the crowd at Candlestick has come alive. The Say Hey Kid says there's hope as he takes Waddell deep out of the park to left center. But that's where things would stay until we got to the bottom of the ninth. Rollie Fingers coming on to try to lock things down. Had saved 5 of 6 in the postseason. He had led the American League in saves during the regular season with 49. When this section of the broadcast opened up, I made reference to the back-to-back being appropriate, and here's why.
Starts it off against Melott. And Melott just tied the game. First pitch swinging, and Melott puts one into the seats. We are tied here at Candlestick. Melott jumps all over the first pitch from Rollie Fingers, and the Giants stay alive. It is tied at 4. An absolute laser.
So Ott, who had gone back-to-back with Mays in that Mets game twice, including the game winner, now goes off Fingers to tie it up. His 6th home run of the postseason, and now Fingers would find himself in all sorts of trouble. Buster Posey with another big hit, falls in front of Reggie Jackson, runner on first, nobody out. Here's Willie McCovey stepping in again. McCovey, the National League home run leader with 51 after an unconscious final 6 weeks of the season in which he hit 14 home runs. McCovey would come through with a single to right. Runners now at first and second, and Rollie Fingers would be pulled for Andrew Bailey. Bailey would make his 5th appearance of the postseason. He had been sharp to this point. With the winning run 90 feet away, he'd face Freddie Lindstrom.
Shot up the middle. Base hit. The Giants win. The Giants rally to come back. They force the game 6. It's a 5-4 walk-off win on the RBI single from Freddie Lindstrom. Fingers blows the save. The Giants stay alive, and the series is heading back to Oakland.
So while Game 6 is the one that forced the Game 7, this one I felt like ranked a bit higher because this is the one that started the Giants' comeback in this series. Game 6 doesn't happen without this one. And this victory was rousing. The Giants had to come back to claim the lead as opposed to holding the lead and holding on to it as they did in Game 6. So I just felt like this one warranted a little higher spot. It's more than a little unfair that after the great regular season Rollie Fingers put forth for the A's, that he is going to be subjected to back-to-back appearances here on this list, 2 in the top 3, where he was unable to get the deal closed. But alas, that is the situation here. Game 2 on our top 10 list of the postseason games brings us to Game 6. A's and Indians of the American League Championship Series, Lefty Grove and Sam McDowell. The Indians had a 2-1 series lead, but the A's won games 4 and 5 in dramatic fashion, Reggie Jackson spurring both of them. Indians start off Game 6, though, in the third, an RBI single from Napoleon Lajoie, who by this point was sufficiently out of his slump to start the postseason, puts this one over the head of Jimmy Fox into right to give the Indians the 1-0 lead. Bottom of the third we go. McDowell working to Ricky Henderson with this double down the third base line to bring home Bert Campaneris, and Game 6 was tied at 1 apiece. Sam McDowell, after a very erratic regular season, battling control issues much of the way, was terrific in the postseason heading into this start. Full count, Frank Baker, 2 men on, here in the 4th Baker drives one into the gap. 1 run scores. The second run comes around. McGuire trying to get home. He is gunned out at the plate, though, on a perfect relay. But the A's had taken the lead 2-1 in the bottom of the fourth. And if you look at this replay, this is a very, very close play at the plate. It's also close to being a home run. Frank Baker, just an exceptional postseason. But look at that relay. McGuire thought he got his hand over Martinez's glove, but the umpire, right on top of it, said the tag was made. 2-1 was the score. Still in the fourth. Now 2 outs, first and second. There's a shot into right for a base hit. Runner will come around. That one will score with no doubt. That's an RBI single for Wally Shang. And the A's would take a 3-1 lead against Sam McDowell and the Indians. Things would still roll on. Bert Campaneris, ground ball to third. Jose Ramirez, outstanding at third base all season and all postseason with an errant throw into right field. Another run would score on the error, and Oakland had now had hold of a 4-1 lead in the fourth of the potentially clinching Game 6. They weren't done, though. Ricky Henderson, 2 runners on, 2 outs. McDowell delivers. Henderson up the middle for a base hit. Another run would come around. The throw would come in from Brantley way off the mark. And you're just seeing the Indians unravel here, it seems, as the A's opened up a 5-1 lead against Sam McDowell, and things looked daunting, to say the least, for the Tribe. So that hit would end McDowell's day, and now it was up to Lefty Grove to protect the lead. Runner on second, Michael Brantley, base hit into center field. Runner would come around to score. Mitchell comes in, makes it a 5-2 ball game. Michael Brantley comes through with the RBI in the fifth. Grove had again been kind of working in and out of trouble. He was giving up some decent contact. He'd gotten away with that in a couple of other starts in the postseason, but this time, not so much. And now with the game 5-2, 2 men on, Manny Ramirez, ground ball to third, 5-4-3 double play. And Manny Ramirez, who had been so incredibly clutch all postseason, would feel like he had missed an opportunity there and hope for another. Raleigh Fingers was on for the A's in the ninth with the score still 5-2. Michael Brantley would lead things off with a single. That would bring up Ray Chapman, who, as you saw earlier, has done some drama of his own in the postseason, but Fingers would fan him there with the high slider for out number 2. The A's were 1 out away from clinching their World Series berth. Napoleon Lajoie singled into right, and that would bring the tying run to the plate in the form of Manny Ramirez.
Cleveland is down to their final strike. 1-2, Fingers against Manny Ramirez. 2 down here in the bottom of the ninth, 2 on. There's the pitch. Ramirez, high fly ball to left. That ball's hit well. Back to left, Henderson at the wall. It's out of here. It's out of here. Manny Ramirez ties the game with a 3-run homer off Raleigh Fingers, and we are knotted at 5. Unbelievable. Manny goes deep. Being Manny, we are tied and Cleveland stays alive. Manny Ramirez. Unbelievable. 1 strike away. And the Cleveland Indians tie it up at 5. The crowd here in Oakland is stunned.
So with Ramirez having come through in the clutch yet again, we would stay 5-5 till the 10th. Bases loaded, Michael Brantley. Fly ball to right, Reggie Jackson turns and throws. Throw home not going to happen. And the RBI sacrifice fly would bring in Victor Martinez, and the Indians would lead at 6-5. Emmanuel Clase would come on to try to close things out. But with 2 outs, Bill North would line a single into left. And the A's have their own big slugger who they like to turn to in clutch situations. That would be the MVP candidate first baseman Jimmy Fox. Clase faces Fox, tying run on, winning run at the plate.
Clase deals. High fastball cutter struck him out. And Emmanuel Clase closes it out. The Indians come back from a 5-1 deficit to take Game 6, 6-5 in 10 innings, and they forced the Game 7. An unbelievable performance by the Indians.
So the A's would have to wait, but they would ultimately defeat Cleveland in Game 7 thanks to an outstanding pitching performance from Catfish Hunter to get into the World Series. The A's would go fishing one more time, calling on Catfish to win the number 1 game of the FSBL postseason, Game 7 of the World Series. A series that began with a pair of Oakland routs, then another offensive breakout by the A's to take a 3-1 series lead. They were 1 strike away from winning the World Series, and then disaster struck. The Giants won Game 5, the Giants won Game 6, and now we would get to Game 7. Top of the first, Catfish Hunter fans Willie Mays to close out the inning. Rube Marquard would get the start for the Giants. Marquard hadn't started since July. He had started 14 games early in the season, but then was injured, and when he came back, went to the bullpen. He hadn't started in the postseason. Now he had the game of the year in the palm of his hands. Cruised to this point, 3rd inning, Ricky Henderson having just stole second, 2 outs, 1-2 pitch to Bill North, swung on and missed. North would go down. We would get a third of the way through Game 7, still scoreless. A's and Giants fighting for the championship. Again, the A's won 111 games during the regular season. The Giants won 109. This was the matchup everyone expected. First and second, 1 out. Fly ball to center, runner doesn't tag. Marquard in a little bit of trouble again, trying to navigate his way through it. Bill North once again at the plate. He'd struck out with Henderson in scoring position his last time up. This one popped up on the infield. Jeff Kent puts the squeeze on it. We're through 5. Still scoreless. Now we're in the 6th. 2 outs. Brandon Belt up for the Giants, and Catfish Hunter locks him up to close out the 6th. Belt echoing the Giants' sentiments, frustrated throughout the game by a sterling Catfish Hunter. Now we're in the bottom half. Runner on first. Stolen base attempt there. It's a wild throw. Bill North steals the bag, but Alvin Dark wisely backs up the throw to keep North from being able to advance till 3rd. Now Marquard would have to face Fox. Nobody out. The first run of the game potentially in scoring position. Marquard would tie him up with a big curveball. Down goes Fox for out number 1. Here's Mark McGuire. North still on second. 2-2 count. Ground ball to second. Jeff Kent, who had made an error earlier in the game, makes the backhand play to retire McGuire at first for out number 2. North moves up to 3rd. 2 outs, bottom of the 8th. Marquard, 1 out away from getting out of probably his biggest jam in the game, and in steps Frank Baker.
Here's the pitch from Marquard. Baker hits it hard but foul. 24 pitches this inning. Marquard, finally that pitch count is being driven up by the A's, and they're threatening as a result. Full count offering. Baker in the right. It's a base hit for Frank Baker, and the A's take a 1-0 lead here in the bottom of the 8th. RBI single for Frank Baker. Pulls this one in the right, and the A's are on the board.
So after about as courageous an outing as you're going to see, Rue Marquardt comes out of the game with 2 outs in the 8th, having finally surrendered a run and possibly coming out on the short end of things. Marquardt deserved a better fate than this feeling, but now the focus would go to the top of the 9th. Catfish Hunter had woven an absolute gem, allowing only 2 hits to this point. Bobby Thompson loops one out in the shallow right. Marcus Semien would track it down for out number 1. Order would turn over Alvin Dark. Terrific all postseason would come up, ground ball up the middle, but Semien would make another really solid play on the backhand, and that would bring us to Brandon Belt. Hunter and everyone else in the stadium knew that Willie Mays was looming on deck. Hunter fell behind Belt 3-0.
So Hunter, he's behind Belt 3-0 here. The man on deck is Willie Mays. And everyone in the building knows it. 3-1 pitch in the hole. Campaneris on the backhand. Tough play. He gets him. Ball game over. And the Oakland A's are the FSBL World Champions. Catfish Hunter, a complete game 2-hitter. Shutout. What a performance from Hunter. With Willie Mays looming on deck, Hunter gets it done. That is a beautiful play from Bert Campaneris. The ball game is over, and in a series where slugfest was the expectation, the series and the season end up in a 1-0 final. Unbelievable.
And I kind of didn't focus on as much during the broadcast when I did it live, but especially in reviewing things after the fact. 2 huge pitches as you show that this is a game of inches. Frank Baker, and Chris Slovic noted this during the actual broadcast. Baker chases what would have been ball 4 out of the zone. He would have walked. Reggie Jackson would have come up. Baker dribbles at foul, ends up getting another pitch, drives the single into right for the 1 run. But that Brandon Belt at bat, that 3-0 pitch, looked like it was high, that he swung on and fouled off. If he draws the walk there, Willie Mays comes up with the tying run on and as the lead run to face Catfish Hunter for the potential final out of Game 7, or, of course, could have turned Game 7 on its ear, as Mays had done throughout the postseason. So really 2 close pitches with huge, huge impact. So that's going to bring this to a close. I know in a way this is kind of a cop-out broadcast. I admit, I didn't want to go the whole time before I got year 2 of the FSBL going without doing any baseball broadcasts. So I figured I'll try to sprinkle in a couple in the interim, and this was one that I definitely wanted to do. As I've said before, first, most of all, thank you for tuning in, as many of you did, to watch basically the whole postseason. I broadcasted every game of this playoff, and I got really, really fortunate that there were as many great games as they were. I mean, to be able to put a list like this together and leave a couple of games off that certainly could have gotten on is really just fortuitous luck, as far as I'm concerned. You had drama, you had a lot of excitement, you had great performances, and so I was very, very fortunate to be able to call all of these games and to share them with you guys. So thank you all again for going through that ride with me. Again, I am hoping that year 2 of the Franchise Stars Baseball League will kick off. My tentative plan is opening day the Friday of Labor Day week. I might end up having to go into the week after that. Just the player creation, doing the faces and the models and all that kind of stuff really does take a while. And I've been a little bit slowed up with some of that. I've been bringing my boys back to college and all that kind of stuff, and taking a little vacation. So I'm not sure. I'm going to try to, but that is the tentative plan for now. I'm still going to shoot for it. It is still possible. If that changes, I will obviously let people know. But that'll do it for now. As always, thanks for watching, liking, chatting, etc. Click the like button, subscribe if you have not as of yet, and be sure to support the other great channels that are friends of this channel. Lots of great guys out there doing great stuff, most of them in this chat. So I thank you guys all. Be good to each other, and we'll talk soon.